Jesus said, "From the beginning of creation, God made them male and female. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, no human being must separate." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Please be seated. Obviously, by the atmosphere of the church, we come here tonight in the season of Christmas, a season that started for us on the evening of December 24th and will conclude tomorrow evening about this time. Certainly, not many choose this season for a wedding, maybe because in New England it's always winter. But there is something very, very appropriate about celebrating Christian marriage in the season of Christmas, because the message of Christmas is a message about the vocation of Christian marriage. Because what is Christmas really? Not just the infancy of Jesus, but it's about the love of God being expressed in human flesh. It's about Jesus Christ who came to be a light in the darkness. And so that's why the decorations of Christmas always involve light. And it's about the compassion of God revealed in Jesus Christ, a compassion that has the power to warm the chill of a rather indifferent world. So then, the love of a Christian man and woman united in marriage is meant to be a means by which that light of Jesus Christ continues to shine in the darkness of the world. For Christian marriage isn't primarily about making sure we live happily ever after, as much as it is about two people committing themselves to work together tirelessly ever after, to help one another to grow in love. And not merely romantic love, but that love that endures, because it's about a selfless and unconditional love. Certainly, unconditional love demands great personal self-sacrifice, even to the extent that by our gospel this evening, we are reminded that marriage requires those who would enter it to leave their old selves completely behind and form an entirely new identity. That two should somehow become one flesh. Certainly it sounds poetic, but it's much easier said than done. Because it means that after struggling at the world's behest for almost 3 decades of life to finally establish your own identity, to achieve your independence, to assert your autonomy, to celebrate your individuality, then marriage requires surrendering all that to a radically new interdependence. It means being willing to lose yourself so that together as a couple you can grow in that corporate sense of us instead of just thinking of me. Appreciating above all that you're in this together for life. You're no longer separable. That two minds and two hearts, however different they might be, have to now grow together as one. In our day and age, where the emphasis is always on the self and the autonomy of the individual is glorified above all, and keeping one's options open is the primary modus operandi, Christian marriage then, when correctly understood and lived, is very, very countercultural. And in truth, it's not so much about rights as it is about responsibilities that are nothing less than sacred. And so there isn't really a great deal of support for this kind of marriage in society today. But there is in the community of faith to which it belongs, and there is through the grace that God Himself gives to sustain it. So Allison and Brett, stay close to the church and the sacraments if your marriage is to be and become everything that God is calling it to be. So our prayer for Allison and Brett as they marry this evening is that they will become more and more married with each passing day. That over time, two will become more and more one. That through their ever deepening love, through their less and less conditional love, the light of God's love will shine through them in this world. Indeed, that through everything that St. Paul urges of them tonight, their mutual care for one another, their kindness toward one another, their deep respect for one another, their abiding patience with one another, and especially their full forgiveness of one another, the love of God will be recognized as still dwelling in human flesh, still creating and redeeming human life, even in our own day. So Brett and Allison, as you see the light shine in the darkness each year at Christmas time, may you always be reminded of that great vocation that is yours in Christian marriage, which is nothing less than to participate in that continuing incarnation of Jesus Christ by growing in love, such that your marriage provides light in the darkness, warmth in the cold, not only for yourselves, but for all who will be touched by your marriage in the years ahead, that all of us pray will be many. So Brett and Allison, if you are ready to accept this role in our midst and embrace these sacred responsibilities for your sake and for the good of many others, we will invite you now to stand and with Brad and Joelle and all of us as witnesses, invite you to promise before us that you will work from this day forward at loving one another ever more freely, ever more fully, ever more unconditionally every day for life.